Yo guys, what is going on? Blossom is back, and yes, I got that pump back into my voice. I want to say like 95% recovered, which is really good. I've been sick for the last 2 days, which is bad. Usually when I'm sick, it lasts like less than a day. 2 days. Yeah, that was pretty bad. I was on the road to recovery, but it was kind of slow. It kind of annoyed me. But anyway, guys, I want to talk about the PL15 official cars, and I'm going to do it differently, okay? Let's be real, right? Every time a new car gets released, there is so much hype going around it, and that's normal. But today I don't want to kill the hype, but I want to give you a realistic view. How good are these cars actually? Okay, like, you see them on their own and you think, oh, this is the next best thing because it's new, but how good are these new cars actually? I think about 3 of what we've seen so far are actually worth like consideration for the Blossom Choice Club. I digress. I'll show you what I got over here. Okay, so starting us off, we're gonna start off with the RQ36 Geo Tracker. So how good is the Geo Tracker? Obviously, we don't know every specific stat of every car yet. We don't know the ground clearance of the Geo Tracker. We can assume that it's high ground clearance, but we don't know that for sure until it comes to the game. We don't know how light it is. We can assume it is light, but we don't know how light until it comes to the game. And that's the same thing with all the MRA. We don't know the MRA for a lot of these cars, but we can compare them. Okay, so the first one is the Geo Tracker. Where do I see this? Now, the Geo Tracker takes the light weightiness of the Suzuki Vitara. I mean, they are more or less almost the same car. It takes the low 0 to 60 of a Honda CRV, and then, well, I would say the low 0 to 60 of a Honda CRV or a Suzuki Jimny, and then it takes the handling once again from the Suzuki Jimny or the Honda CRV. So right off the bat, I think that the Geo Tracker is a pretty decent car. I would say that the main thing about it is that it's going to be very, very light. We need to assume it's very, very light, and it has a low 0 to 60. You know, you compare it to the Suzuki Jimny Sierra, it actually has a lower 0 to 60 than a car that is 2 RQ higher than it. So that's impressive, to be fair. But one thing to take note of is the handling. 66 handling isn't that good. Like, I like the Vitara because it is cheaper to use and it handles even better. I know that the 0 to 60 is weaker, but I'd rather take the car like the Vitara. But we may never know. The Geo Tracker might be a really good all-rounder. We won't know until the update drops. I'm looking forward to the Geo Tracker. The main thing about it, like I said, is that it kind of brings that low, very lightweight performance with that very, you know, in relative terms, okay, low 0 to 60. The second one I want to talk about now this one, the Ford Focus RS. I feel like a lot of you guys, when you first saw this car, you're all like, oh my god, the Ford Focus is the next best thing. This thing is incredibly OP. Now, first of all, the angle of the picture makes it look like it's an estate. I don't think it's an estate, is it? It's a hatchback. See, I don't know this car very well. It's a British Ford. I know my American Fords. I know that they sell this in the States now, but I don't know. It's a hatchback. I'm pretty sure it's a hatchback, and I think we can assume that it's medium ground clearance. So where would it be? Straight off the bat, when you look at this car on its own, you think, wow, you know, this car is amazing. It has a low 0 to 60, it's medium ground clearance, it's 4-wheel drive. It's going to be amazing. But then you put it up against its competitors, like the Subaru Impreza, where a lot of you players would have right now because you probably would have won it from all the, you know, summer party events. And this is a very similar car. In fact, you can even say that the Subaru Impreza is actually the better car because handling is key in all these twisty environments, right? Unless that the MRA on the Ford Focus far surpasses the one of the Impreza, which may be true because the Subaru Impreza WRX S202 GDB has no MRA. I think someone did the testing, it was like 56 or some crap like that, but it's got a low 0 to 60, great handling. So if the Ford Focus can far surpass the Subaru in MRA, then yeah, it'll be the better car even though it has less handling, but we don't know that for sure. Then we compare the Ford Focus to the Volvo V60, both 4.4 0 to 60, but the Focus, I can tell you right now, it handles better, and I'm 99% sure that the Ford Focus RS is lighter than the very, very heavy Volvo V60, and that's why it's higher in RQ. That makes sense. And then we have the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 8 MR or Mr. FQ340, right? 4587 to the Ford Focus's 4486. I would say that 77 is a good place to put the Ford Focus right now, although we don't know the MRA, which is mid-range acceleration for those that don't know. Yeah, I don't think that we should be overhyped about the Ford Focus. I think all the overhype is coming from the fact that it's a new car. But in terms of it being OP, I don't think so. I don't think so. It seems very fitting for a higher rated epic. I'll put it that way. The higher rated epic, but not the best. There's probably going to be a 79 version that's just slightly better, like 4086 or something like that. Okay, moving on now is going to be the Lotus Elise Club Racer. Now, this one I feel like it might be a little bit OP. For 45 RQ, you're telling me that it is almost similar to the Lotus Elise Sprint. And the Lotus Elise Sprint is 49 RQ. The Lotus Elise Club Racer is 45. The only difference between these two cars right now is literally 0.1 seconds in 0 to 60, and maybe the picture. I mean, even the pictures look almost the same. They're driving away from each other, it seems. But yeah, the Elise Club Racer, if that's gonna be 45, that probably means that the Lotus Elise Sprint is going to move down in RQ. Now, that makes sense because the standard, how I feel about this for the PL15 update is that the standard for rear wheel drive performance tire cars and front wheel drive performance tire cars are going up in terms of, like, you know, what makes an RQ80 stronger, you know, because obviously we're gonna see some really OP epics coming up. So I feel like you have to be a stronger car in PL15 to be RQ80 than what it takes to be RQ80 now, if that makes sense. And that's obviously going to create a domino effect for all the RQs below RQ80. So I feel like the Lotus Elise Sprint is actually going to go down in RQ from 49 maybe to 45. Just doesn't seem realistic. Maybe 46 or something like that. Maybe the Lotus Elise Club Racer has just like bad MRA, like 0 MR. I don't know. But yeah, that's a pretty interesting one. That at 45. I'm comparing it once again to a, you know, Elise Club Sprint, the Renault Sport Clio Cup car. I mean, they're very, very similar. The Lotus Elise Club Racer is very, very similar to two of these RQ49s you see here, the Elise Sprint and the Clio Cup car. And then the Mazda RX-8 Sprint R is just here because it's kind of in that RQ range, and it kind of is in that, you know, handling range as well. But it's pretty interesting to see. If the Lotus Elise Club Racer remains at 45, we might be seeing a lot of, you know, super rares that we have accustomed to see as RQ49s move down to maybe 45 as well. That's going to be interesting. Moving on is going to be the RQ70 Bristol Fighter. Now, this is an interesting one. Looking forward to this car, seeing how it performs. RQ70, which means that it definitely has better MRA than the TVR Tuscan, because now how I assume this is because it has a worse 0 to 60 than the Tuscan, and the Tuscan is 5 RQ cheaper with a similar top speed, with a similar 0 to 60, but we all know that the Tuscan has no MRA, right? And that's why it's at RQ65. So I think that the Bristol Fighter might have a little bit of MRA to its name, but not as much as the Jaguar F-Type, because the Jaguar F-Type is RQ72. It's an outdated picture. I know it says 71, but it's RQ72. It shares the same 0 to 60, but since the Jaguar has more RQ, I have reason to believe that the Jaguar has more MRA, and that's why it's more expensive to use. Now, the Jaguar F-Type has 97 MRA. The Lamborghini Diablo, which is the same RQ as the Bristol Fighter right now, has 82 MRA. So we can maybe decipher that the Bristol Fighter might have around 85, 86 MRA, because remember, the standard for each RQ is increasing. So the Lamborghini Diablo, although it's 70 now, shouldn't be 70 in PL15, and that makes sense. So if the thing is, you have to convert it, right? The Bristol Fighter's RQ is already in the PL15 time zone, but the Tuscan, the F-Type, and Diablo is still in the PL14 time zone. So maybe in PL15, the Bristol will be 70, but the Diablo might be 68. Maybe the F-Type might be 71, which would mean that the Bristol Fighter might actually have decent MRI. See, these are all the things that you have to think about. So to make it simple for you guys, look forward to the Bristol Fighter. I'm looking forward to the Bristol Fighter, and so should you. Because of a high top speed, I think it would be a great dragster. Okay, moving on, the Ford Capri. I think I should just do it for every single car we now. Okay, if you should look forward to it or you shouldn't look forward to it. Ford Capri Tickford, you shouldn't look forward to it. It looks like a hybrid jack of all trades, master of none kind of car. Very similar to the Lotus Europa Special 6576 to the Lotus Europa 6677. Very, very similar. I'd rather choose the car that handles better, so I would choose the Europa over the Ford Capri any day of the week. So I wouldn't be looking forward to the Capri. All right, next, the AMG G63. Now, this was the car that I was most excited for during the PL15 stream. I was sick on that stream. It was the Tuesday. It was the worst. It was the peak of my illness. But I was so hyped for this one. The G63 is amazing. Because it just means that there's gonna be a Mercedes revamp, and I've been calling for a Mercedes revamp for freaking years at this point. Looking forward to it. Bunny and I were talking about this. I think that the AMG G63 is going to be very similar to its predecessor. predecessor means the car before it, right? I think so. I think it's gonna be very similar to its ultra rare counterpart, right? The ultra rare G63 is fantastic for the quarter mile and the half mile, and I think it's gonna be the same for the Epic. I think it's gonna have no MRA because it's an incredibly heavy car, even though it's a very powerful engine. It's still a very, very heavy car. It's got a low 0 to 60. I think it'd be great for the quarter mile. It'd be great for the half mile. Useless for everything else. I think that it would be the better car compared to the AMG GLE, though. The AMG GLE has 4.0 0 to 60, but 62 MRA. I think that the AMG G63 might have similar MRA to this as well, and with that slightly lower 0 to 60, I think that the AMG G63 will be the best Epic, at least from what we see right now, for the all-surface quarter mile and the half mile. Anything longer than that, we're going to be in trouble. But I'm comparing it to these three cars, including the legendary BMW X5, just to showcase how much of a standout that 3.90 to 60 is for the AMG G63. Am I looking forward to this car? Absolutely. Is it going to have great MRA? Absolutely not. All right, moving on, the RQ80 Di Tommaso P72. That's a good looking RQ80, and I feel like this is going to be the benchmark for RQ80s going forward. No more our 4.089 or 3.989. No, because in PL15, those cars are not worthy of RQ80 anymore. There's going to be a new, like I said, we're raising the standard for what it means to be an RQ80, and the P72 might give us an insight to what that standard may be. That's 3.6 seconds and 90 handling, which means that you may expect all RQ80 legendaries from now on, if they're not drag specialists, if they're not off-road, if they're not standard tires, you may expect them to all hit 100 handling now, which is a good guideline, I would say. So the Di Tommaso, where would I rank it as? I would put it with the Nissan R390. The R390 obviously has way better MRA, but I feel like the R390 might be moving down closer to 80 in PL15, and that's going to be the same thing for the Viper SRT10 ACR, as well as the Aston Martin V12 Vantage. I mean, the Aston Martin V12 Vantage straight up 3690, right? Same exact stats as the Di Tommaso P72. So these two cars I think will be very, very similar. The Aston Martin V12 Vantage has 89 MRA. And then we have the Dodge Viper SRT10 ACR, right? Handles a little better, probably about as light, but a way lower 0 to 60, but really good MRA. I think it's like 96, something like that. So I think all these cars will be very similar. The Nissan R390, you know, the 0 to 60 is crap, but the top speed is the highest among every car here, and it probably still has the best MRA with that same 90 handling. So I think this is a good batch of cars to compare the Di Tommaso to, and it's a good way of seeing what the new RQ80s are going to look like in PL15. RQ75 Ultima Can-Am. This one is overrated. I'm going to say it right now. I think it's incredibly overrated. I know everyone in the stream, when they saw this car, I saw the chat, everyone was saying, oh, the Ultima Can-Am is going to be incredibly overpowered. Calm your tits. I don't think it's going to be. It's 3.388. You compare it to the Dongs. The Dongs are 3.489, 3.488. That Dong D8 270, going to be the better car, for sure. Now, the thing about the Ultima Can-Am is that it kind of fits a niche, which we've never really seen before. Now, according to Bunny, we love Bunny, by the way. According to Bunny said that the Ultima Can-Am should be around 900 to 1,000 kilograms in weight. So it's not going to win the slalom in any case, not even against the JPE or the Dong or maybe even the Hayabusa, because the Hayabusa is 500 kilograms, the Dongs are 600 kilograms, and the JPE is probably around that margin as well. So the Ultima is actually considered heavy among the cars that I put it up against, but we have to realize that it has 3.32 to 60 and handles really well, and I can't put it up against like heavier twisty cars like the Mustang GT4 or the Banana, because those cars have really bad 0 to 60s. Like the Banana is 3.7 and they probably have really good MRA. So the Ultima Can-Am is like this middle ground between a Donkavor D8 270 and a Banana or a Mustang GT4, where it handles very well. It has a lower 0 to 60 than those other heavier cars, but it is not as light as the lighter cars. So it's a new niche. It opens up a whole new, I think it'll be a twisty circuit specialist if anything. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna call it right now. The Ultima Can-Am will be like the next best car for the twisty circuit, but don't expect it to win a twisty road or a G-Force or a slalom test against the Donks. All right, moving on is going to be the RQ92 Hennessy Venom. This is a car that I'm very excited for, but I'm not overhyped. I'm carefully optimistic. The Hennessy Venom GT 2.791, very, very similar to Blossegg, right? The Blossegg is 273, 2792. Hennessy is going to be 278, 27, and 91. And then with the Koenigsegg CCXR edition, which is 250, 2891, and the Chevrolet Corvette ZR1 210, 29, and 91. So I think that the MRA of the Venom GT would be relatively strong. I think it won't hit 100, but I think it'll be in the high 90s, okay? Because if they're going to move down the standard of what makes a legendary, we can safely assume that the Koenigsegg Agera R, also known as Blossegg, might move down an RQ or two, right? It might be 92 in PL15, which would put it level-headed with the Hennessy Venom GT. They're very similar cars. The Koenigsegg, or Blossegg, I'm just going to call him as Blossegg because that's what I named him at, has 97 MRA. Now, if the Hennessy Venom GT has 100 MRA, I can see that as well, to be fair, because it handles less than the Koenigsegg, but then they'll be in the same RQ. That is to assume if Blossegg goes down to 92, right? What we can say for sure is that the Hennessy Venom GT is going to be better than the Koenigsegg CCXR. So whatever the MRA of the Koenigsegg CCXR is, the Hennessy Venom GT probably has better MRA just because it's higher in RQ. So I think the Hennessy Venom GT might have like 100 MRA, 97, like high 90s. I would say high 90s. Am I hyped for this car? Like I said, I'm carefully optimistic. Next one is going to be the Zenus E10. This one I think might actually be a Blossom choice. Zenus E10, I talked about this briefly a couple days ago. It seems to be the better Lotus 340R, but once again, like the Ultima Can-Am, I don't believe the Zenus E10 is actually lighter than the 340R. I don't know how heavy the Zenus actually is, but I don't think it's going to be lighter than the 340R. That being said, they got the same 0 to 60. The Zenus has slightly higher top speed, which would mean that if they were both on a drag situation, I would expect the Zenus to win just because it can hit a higher top speed. That being said, don't put these cars in the drag, and they handle, well, actually the Zenus handles better, right? So I'm really looking forward to the Zenus to see how good it actually is. Will it be a Lotus 340R killer, or will it be pretty equal? Other cars I'll put it up against will be the Tommaso Guara and the Lotus Exige S1. I think all these cars are just going to be really good RQ 60 plus ultra rares. Moving on now is going to be this. This one actually looks OP. It's the RQ79 Audi R8 rear wheel drive. Once again, I'm going to compare it to the Aston Martin V12 Vantage. Look at how similar they actually are. In fact, the Audi R8 rear-wheel drive is better than the Aston Martin V12 Vantage. Like I said earlier on in my other comparison with the Di Tommaso, I think that the Aston Martin V12 will move down to RQ80, and although it has a slower 0 to 60 compared to the Audi R8, I feel like the Aston Martin will be the better car still at RQ80 than the R8, mainly because of MRA. So I think the Aston Martin will be like 89 MRA, right, as it is right now. So we can maybe assume that the Audi R8 rear-wheel drive will have less than 89 MRA, maybe in the 80s. That being said though, the stock stats of this car is ridiculous. 3.590. I mean, I was talking about how I thought the Dodge Viper SRT10 was like the perfect epic. It's 3.788 with 90 plus MRA compared to the Audi R8's 3.590. Absolutely crazy. And I'm also going to compare it to the Mazda Furai, which is going legendary, 3.592. So the Audi R8 is going to be, I feel like, the benchmark for what is the new best RQ79. Maybe we can expect to see another car like 3.689 but with better MRA. I think that will be an even better car, to be honest. It really depends on the situation, but yeah, really looking forward to unpacking the Audi R8 rear-wheel drive. Really, this one we should be overhyped for, and thank God it's not in blue because I'm sick of that one. All right, moving on, the RQ88 Fnir Super Sport. Our first car from Arab Emirates, the UAE, I believe. This car looks like it has no MRA at all. 88 RQ, right? With 2.60 to 60. It literally says crap MRA. Literally, this thing is gonna have crap MRA. Like, the Gumper to Polo has a 0.4 second difference in 0 to 60. It has a higher RQ. It has 103 MRA, right? The McLaren GT has 87 MRA, which isn't even good for a legendary. It's RQ88. It handles less than the Fnir, and it has a worse 0 to 60. So what I'm trying to say is that if the Fnir, I don't know how you pronounce that, if it has those stats for an RQ88, I think that the MRA is going to be garbage. That being said though, it's going to be a great short burst car. Low 0 to 60 for that RQ. I mean, I can see this being a really good like hybrid car for like hairpin, twisty circuit, twisty road, not slalom, but like, you know, those kind of things, then yeah, I think it'd be pretty good for it, but definitely not a high MRA kind of car, not a fast circuit car. All right, moving on is an RQ48 Ford Fiesta. This one is really new. I got this one today. The Ford Fiesta ST. I'm going to compare it to these three hatchbacks over here, the Megane, the Focus, and the Vauxhall. I mean, this one, not much to say. I think it's very well RQ rated, you know, 6.484. Very similar to the Ford Focus RS, very similar to the cars you see around it, so not much over there. Okay, next one, the Celine S7 TT. Really looking forward to this. I actually really want this one. I think that this might have some decent MRA, okay? For an RQ86, with 3.30 to 60. 3.30 to 60 for an RQ86 isn't good, like on a on paper level. So that usually means that the MRA is good. Like for example, the McLaren F1, 3.20 to 60 isn't really the best thing in the world for an RQ86. Well, guess what? It has 100 MRA. Or, you know, the DBS Superleggera, 3.60 to 60 is really, really weak for an RQ86. I know it's an outdated picture, but it's RQ86 in the game now, right? So it's a really bad 0 to 60 for an RQ86, but it has 110 MRA. So what I'm trying to say is that the worse the 0 to 60, the better the MRA probably is, you can assume. And the Selena 7, you know, for RQ86, 3.30 to 60 isn't like amazing. It isn't that strong. So I'm gonna compare it to the Dodge Viper TA, as in like the Selena is probably gonna have about 90 plus MRA, maybe like 95, 94, something like that, because they're both RQ86, they're both 3.3, they're both 92 RQ. I can see in PL15 that the Viper is gonna move down to 85 and the Selena will stay in 86, mainly because it got a way higher top speed, right? So really interested to see where this lands, but I do believe that the Selena will have some pretty decent MRA. I'm sure someone out there has probably tested them with real times. I'm just testing them off assumptions against other cars in the game right now. And the last but not least, I'm leaving the best for last over here. Now this car I think is incredibly OP. The Ford RS200. How the hell is this RQ82? I'm gonna tell you this right now, okay? Every four-wheel drive off-road tire car in the game, as it stands right now in PL14, none of them have 90 handling stock. The Ford RS200 will be the highest handling four-wheel drive off-road tire car if no other off-road tire car in PL14 get a handling boost. So the RS200, I mean, at RQ82 with those stats, are you serious? I mean, compared to the Lancia Delta HF, that's 4087 to 2790. That's night and day. The only reason why I can think that the Ford RS200 might be that low is because it has low ground clearance, maybe. It definitely should be way higher in RQ, somewhere along the lines of the Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak, you know? Maybe like RQ84, 85, 82 just seems way too low. I mean, honestly, 87 for the Escudo Pikes Peak seems way too low as it is. If anything, I think the Escudo Pikes Peak should be like 93. Maybe the RS200 be 87. You know what I mean? I mean, you compare this straight up with the Lancia Delta. Now I get it, it's a PL15 rated RS200 against a PL14 rated Lancia, but it's still crazy. It just baffles my mind. The RS200 is going to be a fantastic car. That was probably going to be a price car, but that looks ridiculous. 100 handling, four-wheel drive, off-road tires. Insane. Absolutely insane. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be it. Those are all the cars that we've seen so far. No other slides to show you. Let me know if you are hyped or not for these cars. I would say that I'm genuinely hyped for the Ford RS200, the Audi rear-wheel drive V10, the Zenus E10, and and the Mercedes AMG G63. Everything else is kind of like I'll see it in the game and then I'll believe it. Okay, kind of situation, you know. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for today. Let me know if you enjoyed today's video and get ready for PL15. Hope you guys have a great day. Remember to stay safe, wash your hands, and I need to blow my nose. I'm recovering though, I swear. Blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville Pontiac. Hold tight all night, cruise to Jacksonville
Atlantic.
Blonde hair, don't care, look like Leslie Brooks. Pin up girls everywhere with the drop dead look. Swing it side to side as we slow dance to the night. When I hold your perfect